What is up, ladies and gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask podcast, where I dive into the world of Reddit to see what the people asked Reddit and didn't ask me. How's everybody doing this week? I hope you have had a good week behind you, and I hope there is a good week ahead of you. Last week, I did some fun things. I went to the Batman this past Sunday, and my grandpa was celebrating his birthday, so it was a fun weekend. I bought some clothing in Amsterdam because I don't really buy clothing for myself often, but I walked into the Primark, and if you know, the Primark is a very cheap store. You know, they have some fun things, and it's always super cheap. So I walked in with a friend of mine, and I saw a hoodie that was lavender colored. And if you know me, you know that my favorite color is purple. So everything that is like some shade of purple is very much in my wheelhouse. And this case, again, it was like a lavender. It was more of like a pastel color, and I really love pastels as well. But I'm normally not the type of person to wear those things. But this time I was just like, you know what? We're gonna play it a little differently this time. So let me buy that hoodie that was lavender colored. And man, I am in love with it. My mom just washed it, so I'm gonna be wearing that quite often, I think. Especially next week, because there are some fun things happening for me regarding my work. There are some fun lunches on the horizon, so I am very excited to start wearing that and, make everybody jealous of me wearing a lavender hoodie. But okay, this is not a fashion podcast. This is a podcast where I dive into the world of Reddit. So let's do just that by going to the first Ask Reddit question for today, asked by user devious_egg. And they ask, adults, what is something you'd love receiving as a gift, but no one even considers giving you because you are an adult? For me, I am very much a child at heart. I have a room filled with memorabilia from games and movies and TV shows and you name it. And I love that shit. So give me more of that stuff. Like give me some small Lego builds with small Spider-Mans, or I love Funko Pops. I've said this in the past. I collect Funko Pops. So if you see those, please bring them over. But right now, of course, you may not have missed this. You probably haven't missed this. But Pokemon is gaining traction again, and it's becoming so popular. And man, what I would do to get like another dopamine rush of collecting those Pokemon cards. I have been looking for them, but many stores are overpricing them now because they are so popular and people are making money off of them. So the stores thought the same thing. So they are cashing in right now, which on one side I cannot blame them, but when I walk into a store and see that they are selling ETBs for $100 while they are basically like MSRP would be like 50 or $60, that's kind of crazy. You're basically doubling the price, and that's all profit for the businesses. And again, I understand it on one side, but on the other hand, it's just like, well, you are the business, so please just do your business. And I guess that they are doing it that way. But yeah, it's kind of a bit fucked up when you think about it, when you just walk into a normal store and they are greatly overpricing what you normally would pay for it. Basically paying scalper numbers at this point, and it's just like, dude, you're just a normal store. Please slow down a bit, make it a little cheaper. I guess that you can sell it at a more of a profit, but selling it for double the price, that's absolutely outrageous. So going back to the question asked by user devious_egg, adults, what is something you'd love receiving as a gift, but no one even considers giving you because you're an adult? For me, it would be Funko Pops, but most family members know that I do collect them, so they do think about me when they see them in stores. But they're very hesitant to buy me some because, I might have them already. So when I really look at this question, I would say Lego, because Lego is so much fun. Even the smaller builds could be so fun to just sit there for like 10 minutes and figure out how to build it and then displaying it. That's fun. But really, right now, the world is all about Pokemon cards. So I'm gonna just say Pokemon cards. I've had a ton of Pokemon cards from my childhood, but I want some more. I want some more Pokemon cards. So please, if you do, give me some Pokemon cards. Thank you for your question, devious underscore egg. Moving on to the second question of today, and this one coming from user Rascal Fiats. And they ask, what is something every junk drawer must have in order to consider a proper junk drawer? And to me, a junk drawer is not a junk drawer. Jesus Christ, say that 50 times. Without having the Rat King of chargers. Like, right now, there are so many electrical devices around our house. And especially the older ones, like you got a new charger every time and it had a different connection every time. So when you had like the Nokia phones, they had like thin pins and then they became thicker and then they became longer and you name it. There are so many chargers right now that we aren't using anymore because basically everything that is chargeable right now and you buy new uses a USB-C, luckily. And over here in the European Union, they are seriously considering implementing a universal, which is kind of funny when the U in USB stands for universal, but they want to do a universal charging port and they're leaning against making it USB-C so that every device that is being sold in the European Union needs to have a USB charger, and this goes from phones to tablets to laptops and you name it. Which, on one side, I think that is a very interesting way, and some companies are going up against that and saying that, well, that halts innovation. But honestly speaking, I don't really think that we can innovate much more from USBs because USB-C is a very chill thing because you can, of course, flip it upside down and it fits in the same slot. Doesn't matter how you turn it. So that's really nice. And like many phone companies are displaying, is that you can charge your devices fucking quickly with USB-C with companies like OnePlus and Oppo going as far as giving people chargers that charge at 120 watts or 200 watts and making it super easy and very quick and painless to charge your device where you can charge your normal mobile phone or your smartphone within 10 minutes. That's fucking crazy. Just think about that. You put your phone in the charger, you go to the bathroom, and basically when you get back, your phone is charged, especially when a phone charges nowadays, like I said, with these fast charging things, they charge the battery from 0 to 100 in like 8 minutes or something like that. So when your phone isn't even dead and you put it in the charger, you would be able to, like I said, go to the bathroom and come back and have a fully charged phone. That's fucking crazy to me. But that's not what this question is about. This question was about the junk drawer. But yeah, like I said, that's why we got to the charging the conversation. We have so many chargers that we don't really use anymore nowadays. So I feel like your junk drawer is not a junk drawer if you don't have a bunch of these chargers connected to each other and basically with no way of separating them from each other. So going back to your question asked by user Rascal-Fiats, what is something every junk drawer must have in order to consider a proper junk drawer? And again, I would say the fucking Red King of chargers that we are not using anymore. I need to see some pins charging. I need some, I don't know, micro USB chargers, some mini USB chargers, some shit like that. Like a whole bunch of weird pins and combinations of connectivities. Because that's what makes a junk drawer a junk drawer. Thank you for your question, Rascal Fiats. Moving on to the third question of today, asked by user Soggy-King, and they ask, reincarnation was real, but you can't pick to be born as a human again. What animal do you pick? I have talked about my favorite animals in the past, and I am seriously considering a raccoon. Because a raccoon is such a cool animal, and he is so smart, or they are so smart, I should say. But they can also be like, I feel like we always say that monkeys and apes are, very human like. And of course, if you believe in the evolution of mankind, you know that we are related to apes and monkeys. But somehow, raccoons seem to be like basically just as smart as like pigs or something like that, because they are very much capable of defending themselves because they could be very vicious, very similar to apes actually, but also have the ability to play very cute and just beg people for food and stuff. And I feel like that's such an interesting part of this animal. And again, there are always dangers, and especially nowadays when you're picking an animal that lives in the forest, there is a way for you to get out of the forest and then get run over by a car. But honestly, there's not much of a difference when you're a human and when you're a raccoon. So to me, a raccoon would be one of the options I would consider. Of course, a house cat is always a fun one as well, especially looking at my cats right now. They are just sleeping all day, laying in the sun, getting fed well. Like, there are so many things that a house cat has because it's just chilling, you know what I'm saying? But again, with house cat as well, it's like you're hoping for a good home for yourself. Again, I'm reincarnating into a house cat. So I'm hoping for a good home, but there is still the chance that you're getting, thrown into a household where you're living with 20 other cats in a very small apartment where it smells like piss and shit, and you're trying to survive. So I feel like going as a raccoon basically solves most of those issues because I'm just a wild animal. But I have somehow developed the way to communicate in the sense that I can beg for food. I know where people are living and how to get there and climb trees and whatever the fuck. So going back to the question asked by Soggy-King, reincarnation was real, but you can't pick to be born as a human again. What animal do you pick? And my answer to this question would be a raccoon. I think that a raccoon is very much a convergence of multiple fun aspects of being an animal, but also keeping some form of human existence alive, so to speak. Because raccoons, they do stuff that's so funny, and I love those animals, so I would pick a raccoon if I had to be reincarnated into a different being. Thanks for your question, Soggy King. Moving on to the fourth question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today. And this one was asked by user aggressive underscore C underscore 8206. And they ask, what's a dead video game series that you think should be given another shot by a development team today? I have said this on this podcast also many a times, and I have done 52. This is the 52nd episode of this here podcast, so there is some overlap in these questions somewhere. And of course, the answers, because I am me and I have no one to talk to, in the sense that there is nothing much for me to do than talk about my own experiences and my own feelings, and there's nothing to bounce off of. So we're gonna tread some well-worn territory here, but I'm a big fan of The Bouncer. The game that came out on PS2 was made by Square Soft at the time, I think, right? It was Squaresoft. And it's such a fun game. It's an old school side-scrolling beat 'em up type of game. And I have so many fond memories to that game. So I have always said that, hey, I want to see The Bouncer back in one way, shape, or form. It'd be a remaster, it'd be just a port of the game to modern consoles so I can play it again. And of course, it's a bit weird because, again, it's a Squaresoft game, and Squaresoft went together with Enix and then made Square Enix, so I don't know where the rights are fully, but I'm assuming that Square Enix just holds the rights to that. And it's such a fun game to think back on, and it's very much Japanese. And if you look at the main character from the bouncer, he very much wears the same outfit as Sora does from Kingdom Hearts, which is really funny. And yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time, even though I have not played it in, I guess, like 15 years, maybe even longer than that. But still, it's one of the games I hold very fondly in my memory. So that would be one of the games. Another game, which I actually think might have a chance of coming back, and that is Ape Escape. Ape Escape was one of those games I played on my PS1 back in the day, and it was such a fun game to just run around and catch some monkeys, because I think they're monkeys more so than apes, but again, graphics that of the time were bad. So, I don't know really if they were apes or monkeys. I know that the game is called Ape Escape, but sometimes words don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Ape Escape would be one of the games I would love to see a new iteration of. I think that it could be done very well nowadays, especially thinking of what we can do now with open world games and implementing that 3D platforming style game, but then in an open world game. And I think that that would be so much fun to just be like, hey, there are basically similar to like a Pokemon game, I guess, where it's you go to like, hey, there are 250 apes that escaped from this facility. You have to go find them, and then you have like a couple of different types of apes, and some of them being, easy to catch, and some of them being harder to catch, some of them being in different places or difficult places, going into caves and doing, puzzles and whatever to get into a different part of the world so you can catch that. And oh my god, there are so many things that you can really do with an Ape Escape. So I would love to see a modern day team develop a new Ape Escape. So going back to the question asked by user aggressive _C _8206, and they ask, what's a dead video game series that you think should be given another shot by a development team today? And I would say The Bouncer. That's very much a personal thing. I love The Bouncer, so would love to see some form of an iteration of the game back again. Again, it'd be a port or a remaster or a sequel. I don't know. So I would love that. And also a new Ape Escape would be fucking awesome with the technology that we have nowadays. Especially thinking about that on PlayStation 5 with the DualSense and, having to struggle against a monkey. Oh man, that would be so fucking cool. Thank you for your question, Aggressive C. And now, moving on to the final question for the Ask Reddit subreddit for today. This one coming from user JesseMania92, and they ask, what movie scene never fails to make you bust out laughing? There are some scenes, but I watched the movie Moonstruck this past week, and one scene out of that movie made me laugh so hard that it's constantly on my mind, and I'm thinking about it, and even thinking about it makes me laugh. So imagine this. It's an Italian family having dinner. They're eating pasta, of course, because it's Italian. And then the old man, like the grandpa of the family, basically, he gets up from his seat and gives his meatballs and sauce to his dogs. But the woman of the house, the mother, she doesn't like that. And when the grandpa gets up a second time to give the dogs more food, she goes, if you give those dogs one piece of my food again, I'm gonna kick you till you're dead. And that shit fucking broke me while watching that movie. I had never seen this movie before, and that scene just fucking demolished me somehow. Like, it was so fucking funny to me. So, going to your question, Jesse Mania 92, what movie scene never fails to make you bust out laughing? And again, I know that is a recent movie for me, but Moonstruck, if you give those dogs another piece of my food again, I'm gonna kick you till you're dead. That shit fucking makes me laugh. It's amazing. It's great. So yeah, that would be my answer to you, Jesse Mania. Thank you for your question. And now, moving on to the Am I the Asshole subreddit for today for our final question. Coming from user superb watercress. And they ask, am I the asshole for taking off my leg and making someone look dumb and feel uncomfortable? This is gonna be an interesting one. It's also a long one, so please strap in. A 21-year-old female was in a very bad car accident about 3 years ago. A drunk driver ran a stoplight, cut off a semi-truck, which then crashed into me, sending me crashing into 2 different cars and then ultimately into an embankment. My car was mangled and my leg was crushed, completely destroyed, and it had to be amputated. I also lost a couple fingers, the tip of one and all of another. I'm also left with a gnarly scar that used to bother me, but I'm learning to deal with them. I got a couple different insurance payouts and some pain and suffering money in addition to my medical bills being paid, and with my money I purchased a custom-made leg to take the place of the one I lost. When I have pants and shoes on, you can hardly tell unless you're really looking. I still limp, but some days I don't have as a pronounced limp. Earlier today, I went to the store with my boyfriend, my sister, her girlfriend, and our mother. I drove. I had to learn to drive with my left foot, but I'm really good at it now. I also bought a new car with my money and had to go through a ton of therapy to get past the PTSD, but I'm doing well now. So I drove us, and because of my injuries, in addition to my leg, I have chronic hip, neck, and back pain and some issues with my lungs from time spent intubated in a medical-induced coma that led to pneumonia. I have a handicap placard on my car. I have trouble walking without getting tired, so it really helps me to park close to the door. Today I did so and unknowingly took a space from someone who was circling back around for it. Apparently the man had been looking for a closed space and had missed the one I took and went down and around. He was still on the other aisle when I pulled in, so I didn't cut him off or anything and had no way of knowing he wanted the spot. He parked in the yellow stripe zone and got out and immediately began confronting me about stealing a space from people who actually need it. How I'm just one kid who has no respect for those who are truly sick and suffering. He then ordered me to move. My group was urging me to just walk away, but this has happened before and once the police were even called. I'm sick of people thinking that just because I'm young I don't have a legit need for a little extra consideration. I said okay and went to the car and got in like I was going to drive off. I was wearing a skirt and leggings, so it wasn't quite obvious at first, but when I sat down I took my leg off and showed it to the man, including my stump. I then asked him if it was okay if I still parked there. He walked away, calling me disgusting and rude, and said I could have just told him, and I made him look stupid. My group was embarrassed and said I made things awkward because there was a crowd. Am I the asshole? Well, there is a very simple answer to your question, superb-watercress. Your very long story does sketch a very clear scene of what is going on and what your situation is. And I can, with all honestly and wholeheartedly say, no, you're not an asshole. The person that didn't see the parking spot, it was the asshole. Like, I can understand that you were circling the parking lot, but if you don't look well yourself, like, what the fuck am I supposed to do when you are being a fucking idiot to begin with? So him then yelling at you that you don't need a handicap spot, that's just fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, You don't know the situation of people, and if they have the handicap spot and they have the handicap placard on their car, what the fuck are you gonna do? There are also like old people that get handicap spots where I'm just like, well, you're probably just old and you can just probably walk that a little extra distance, but I'm not gonna bother yelling at you, especially when it's my fault that I didn't see that parking spot to begin with. So, no, you're not the asshole in this situation. Could you just have said what is going on? Probably yes, but does it sketch a more, vivid image when you just take your leg off and be like, hey, fuck you, I need this spot as well? Yes, of course. So, I like a little bit of the drama sometimes. So, I very much think that I very much think that yeah, you're totally fine with showing what is going on. Again, could you have done it in an easier way by just saying that you got your leg amputated because of a car accident? Probably. But again, does this add a little bit more drama and make it a little bit more vivid? Yes, it does. So I'm just gonna say that you're not the asshole here. Superb dash watercrest. Am I the asshole for taking off my leg and making someone look dumb and feel uncomfortable? No, clearly not. The person really was a fucking idiot for missing the spot and then yelling at you, because how the fuck are you supposed to know that this guy wanted a spot if he was on the other side of the fucking parking lot? So, yeah, no, you're not the asshole. Please just keep taking that spot and never feel bad for it. You're not the asshole. Thank you for your question. And that has been it for the Didn't Ask podcast for this week. I hope you had a good time. I had some fun questions this week, and I went through them pretty nicely, I feel like. So please, if you like this podcast, leave a rating on Apple Podcast or Spotify, because both platforms give you the ability to rate this podcast. And if you do, I might see the rating, and if you write a fun review with that, I might read it on this right here podcast in the next episode after I see it. You can find this podcast on all your favorite podcast services, or you can go to anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can see all the hyperlinks to your favorite podcast services like Podcast Addict and Pocket Cast. Over here, you will also see a box that says message, and if you press that, you have the ability to record a voice message for me so I can play that on this podcast and then answer your question personally. If you don't want your voice to be heard on this here podcast, I can totally understand that. Just say it up front in your message and I'll make sure to read out your question myself so I can still answer your question as if you were asking it live on air. I will be back next week, and in the meantime, you can see what I'm watching thanks to track.tv. That link will be in the show description, as well as the link to my anchor.fm page, as well as the YouTube page. On track.tv, you can see all the TV shows and movies that I'm watching, like Moonstruck, that I watched this past week. So yeah, that will be it for me for this week. I hope you have a good week, and I see you back next time. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.